Howdy. Welcome to my shop. My name's Ron and I'll be your host for the next 10 minutes or so. Being a fourth generation carpenter, wood is that's my language. It's my living, it's my hobby, it's my passion. One of those passions is making stocks. I've never had any formal training in this. I just wanted to put a piece of wood on a gun one day, and I seemed like that'd be a pretty unique challenge, so I tried it. And been going at it ever since, but honestly, I owe a lot of my success to my customers, my friends that have suggested this or that, different ways of doing it to produce a better outcome. And so I appreciate them. I owe them a great deal. The finish that I use was suggested by a friend of mine that owns a gun shop in Georgia, a guy named Dan. I've been friends with him for many years, and I owe him for that knowledge. So I don't suggest that my way is the only way. That's just not the case. I picked up my abilities to do this from watching other people and seeing other things and then figuring out how to do that. So it's a process. Some ways are better, cleaner, faster. They require less effort. On and on it goes. And I'm open to learning new and better ways. I'm always looking for that. My grandfather used to say, never let a day go by that you don't learn something. So when I do, I'll often look up, thanks, Pop, because no matter how old you get, you still need to be learning new things. So come on in, see what's going on today. This is a Puckmeyer decelerator in the red version. Not easy to find. This is a medium, which is as big as I can possibly go with. A small would have been better, but they're hard to find. Now I'm going to determine where these holes, mounting holes, back here in the back, you just punch an awl get in the middle of that hole, find the center of it, and punch right through it. See, it comes out the end there. Alright, when you pull it back out, it'll leave a mark. You can see a little tiny, itty bitty dark mark right there. Punch all the way through that. And there's a mark. You take a razor blade and you make a really nice, clean, vertical cut. About that deep. This mark on the bottom is so tiny I can't see it. I want to find it. There it is. And when I pull that back out, it should leave a black mark on it, a dark. I guess my tools are too clean. Now that little vertical cut will let you put the screw in there, and that hole will seal back up. You can see it if you pull it apart. Like so. But it'll go back together nicely. And if you put some oil on that, a little bit of 30 weight, when you go to put your screwdriver in, the screwdriver won't mess up that area. It'll slip and slide in and out of there easily. So I put a little drop of oil on it, and I'm going to slip the screw in there. The threads will get covered with oil as well, and it'll keep the threads from rasping that out and making a mess of it. From the top of the pad down to the center of that top screw is almost an inch. It's a little light of an inch. And so what I'm going to do to grind off the top 1/8 of an inch or so, I'm going to make it 7/8. And I'm going to come down from the top of my wood 7/8 of an inch. That's my top screw. See, that way I've got about 1/8 of an inch of the top of my pad overhanging my stock. And then I'm going to drill an 1/8 of an inch hole center line this way, 7/8 down from the top. And I'm going to measure center to center on these screws. From the top screw to the bottom screw is 3 3/16. So from that hole, I'm going to measure down 3 3/16. Punch that. Drill that. Now to cut threads into this walnut, to keep from putting so much pressure on these new screws, I have a practice screw, not a practice screw, but another screw that's the same size thread, and it's got wax on it. This screw has been doing this operation for many, many years. I use the same one all the time. It's got some wax residue. I'm going to run that in there and cut those threads. I don't run it all the way down, and I never spin it. But when it goes in and comes back out, it's warm. And you can put that thing on a block of wax, and that wax will just go in. It just kind of stays in that metal all the time. Makes it slip in and out really nice, so you don't put pressure and strain on these brand new screws. Now you can see that they're sticking out a little bit. I'm going to line those up with those holes and set them in place. And very slowly, I've got some bits that I ground down. These bits, I ground the shank down. You can see that's thinner and smaller to where the head sticks out a little bit more, but this part is very thin. And I've got 2 of them. And I keep those pretty oiled up. And so when I go in, I don't pull this in and out of each hole. I just leave it in the hole. I always tighten my top screw first, but I always center this where it sits comfortably, where it's sitting nice and comfortably. It's not in a strain in any way. And I tighten my top screw first, always. No matter when I'm putting it on or taking it off, I tighten the top one first and I loosen the top one last. That's snug. Now I'm going to look underneath here with light on the other side of it. I'm going to look through here and see if there's any gap. I don't see any. I don't see any gap at all. That's a nice fit. If you put a really high light, a really high intensity light just on the other side of this and look through from this side, if there's any gap, you'll see it. It'll be very, very, very obvious. That's a well-made pad. Pockmeyer's been doing this for a long time. There's a lot of other brands out there, but to me, you can pay more for a pad, but you don't need to. This is a metal grip cap, single screw. It's got some little holes drilled in the bottom down here to allow for alignment pins, which I'm going to use epoxy. And the first thing I'm going to do is get this thing centered. Now, if you'll remember, I moved the center line over 1/8 of an inch, so I've got to strike a new line, and it'll affect where this grip cap goes ever so slightly. Not much, but a little tiny bit. maybe a 32nd of an inch. So that's my new center. Now this is just a bandsawed rough cut. In the back of this cap is machined metal. So what I'm going to do is get my center hole lined up. I'm going to stay about maybe a 1/16 off of this wood edge here, and mark the center line where the screw hole goes. Something like that. Alright, now I always mark hardware, if it's not obvious, I always mark hardware front and back. I put it on the same way every time and never switch it around. Screws, when I put screws in, if there's two of them, I'll mark them front and back. So I'm going to put a point, I'm going to engrave a little point on the front of this strip cap. That way it goes in the same way every time. I just engraved a little FR and an arrow point. Now this is not smooth yet. I'm going to just mount it first, get it stuck on there, and then I'm going to smooth this up. It's really hard for me to tell on an oval where it's exactly front and back, straight across. Ovals are just tricky. Very tricky critters. They never look straight to me. Never. Yeah, I got to do a fair amount of smoothing up on this. After that's installed and epoxied and I know it's in the right place, I'll get this slot in the screw forward and backward straight. Then I'll take a file and I'll file that off to where it's the same convex surface as the surface of this grip cap. And then whenever they blew it, they blew everything together. And it looks really, really nice. Really nice. I've thought for years that they ought to send 2 screws with these types of applications, because you take one of them in and out so many times, usually tear up the head on it. Especially the little screws. They make some that are about half this size, and usually they snap, they break. And you ought to have one that you can use for practice and tear it up, and then the finished one, I'll supply one for the final application, but they've not listened to me yet. Alright, I'm going to start with a file and just clean this up. Well, thanks for choosing to spend your time here with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this program. I'll try to post a new segment each weekend. In addition, if you'd like to read about a stock that I made and then it took a 20-foot free fall, click on the link at the bottom of this page. It's called The Broken Gun. It's a story I wrote a few years ago about my 2 boys. Sometimes life's hard and things get broken. Now and then we get a chance to fix them. I'm so grateful for the opportunity I had to repair this broken stock. It led to a restoration that I never could have imagined. As always, if you like this video, please click the like button and share this with your friends. Have a great day.